Welcome to Linx. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the Linx Designer. We'll also be building a small file load solution to illustrate what it is like working with Linx. After downloading and installing Linx, you'll be greeted with a sleek new design and, by default, the dark mode. A dark mode theme is great to alleviate eye strain, but if for any reason you prefer the more traditional light mode, don't worry, you can switch between the two and use whichever theme suits your needs the best. Let's take a quick look at the layout of the Linx Designer. The Solution Explorer will contain all of the processes, types, and services that we create. Next to that is our central canvas, where we will build the functionality for our process. Underneath the Solution Explorer, we have the Properties tab. On the Properties tab, we can see all of the properties that can be set for a selected component. On the right hand side, we have the Plugins tab. The Plugins tab contains all of the functions that we will use to build our processes. You can add even more plugins by clicking on the Add Plugin button. Then you can add even more plugins that are relevant to your solution. Now that we've seen the Linx Designer, let's build a quick little solution to see how Linx can be used. For this video, let's build a very simple file importer that will read the data from a CSV file and make it available via REST API. This solution, along with the CSV file I'm importing, will be available for download if you want to tinker around with it. When you create a new solution, you'll see that there is at least one function that is added in the Solution Explorer. Let's rename this function to load customers, since we'll be loading the customers via this function. In the CSV file I created, I know that a customer record is basically composited out of 3 fields: a name, a surname, and a number. I will create a custom type to hold this data for us. To create a custom type, simply click on the Type button. A new type will be added. Click on that, and let's add our 3 fields. One for name, one for surname, and one for number. I'm going to leave them all as string. Now that we have our custom type, we can set the output of our load customers function. We know that we want a list of customers that is retrieved from the file. So, in the load customers properties, I'm setting the result, it's a list, and that list is of type customer. With that saved, it's time to build our load customers function. Linx is designed to be a low-code platform for developers. As such, we need to initialize certain components before using them. A list is one of those components. And because we'll be using a list in our output, let's initialize that list quickly. Let's drag in a setValue component and then put the target to the result, and in the source, let's just set customers to empty brackets. And that's it, you've initialized your list. Next, we'll need a list that will contain the values that we read from the file. For this, I'm simply going to add a list component and set it to type customer. We can see here that it's already initialized. Now we want to actually read the data from our CSV file. For this, we're going to install the File plugin. To do this, simply click on the Add Plugins button and then select File, then wait for it to download. Once the plugin is installed, let's look for the text file read component and drag that into our process. Now to read the file, let's select the path. I'm going to leave all other properties as is and simply go into the Fields section. In the Fields section, let's say that it's comma delimited, there is no text qualifier, and say that lines to skip is 1 on the header, because our CSV file does contain a header. Now, to get the fields, I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to click the Load Fields from File button and select the CSV file. When I click Open, this will automatically load all of the fields in my header with an estimated type. You can change this type if you want it to be something specific, but since our custom type has all of these as string, I'm going to leave them as is. You can also load sample data to see what it will look like. Click on Save when you're done. Now that our reader is set up, we can now decide what we want to do with that data. We know that we want to add it into the list that we've created above. So to do this, I'm going to use an Add to List function. Place it underneath the For Each Line section under the text file reader component. Let's select our list of customers, and then in the value section, let's just go and set each individual field. Lastly, for this process, we need to set the output. To do this, I'm simply going to use a setValue function, and I'm going to set my target as the result, customers, and the source I'm going to make the list that we created above. If we wanted to, we can debug the process here. In order for us to see what is actually happening in the process when it debugs, I'll be adding a breakpoint to the setOutput component. And once it is ready, we can click on the Start button. Now the process will run all the way up to where we set our breakpoint. And once it reaches the breakpoint, we can explore some of the variables and parameters as they are in their current state. Right, now that we've created the process that will actually load our customer data from our CSV file, we now need to create a REST host that will make the data available for somebody else to consume. To do this, I will be using a simple REST host. We will again have to install a plugin. This time, let's install the REST plugin. Once the plugin has installed, search for the Simple REST Host service. Let's drag that onto our Solution Explorer pane. Now this will create a new Simple REST Host service. Click on it to view the properties. We see that we need a base URI and operations for this service to function. For my base URI, I know that this will have to be a parameter that can change from environment to environment. Because of that, I'm going to choose to make my base URI into a setting. To create a setting, simply click on the Settings button. Then, let's add one. Let's call it base URI. And since I'm going to host and debug this service from my computer, let's just make it localhost with default port for now. Let's go back to our simple REST host. In order for somebody to call our REST host, we will have to set up operations. To do this, click on the ellipsis next to the operations field, and now you'll be greeted with a new window. On this window, click on Add Operation. I'm going to call this specific operation Get Customers, make the path Customer, the method stays Get, and the response body I'm going to turn into a list of customers again. What this will do is it'll set the response body to essentially be a JSON object that returns a list of the custom type customer that we've created in the beginning of this video. Let's click Save on that, and now we're greeted with a new operation in our REST host. Get Customers, same as we named it. These operations functions pretty much the same as the function or process that we've created above, Load Customers. It will essentially execute whatever we build in here, just like a normal process would. Because the response body is a complex object with a lot of lists in it, we will have to initialize it before we can continue. We're going to do this exactly the same as we've done with the previous lists. I'm going to use a set component and then just drill down into each list and set it to empty brackets. This will initialize each list in our response body. Next, we can simply add the load customers function that we've created. Since we configured the result of our load customers function to be a list of customers, we can simply use a setValue to set the response body to the list of customers retrieved by the load customers function. And that's it, we're good to go. Time to test the REST service. To do this, we need to select the simple REST host service, click on Debug, and then click on Start. Once it's started, we can call the operation from any browser or from Postman. I'm going to use a browser since this is something that everybody has available. In your browser, let's put in the base URI that we configured, / the path that we configured for that operation, and then hit enter. And there we go. We get a list of all customers in our CSV file in the form of a JSON object. Something cool, on the Linx Designer we can also see that the operation has been called. Possible next steps for this solution is to add some error handling, and then finally, once you're happy with the solution, to upload it to a Linx server so that the solution can be hosted. You can download the Linx Designer for free from linx.software. We'll also put important links in the description. Thanks for watching, and subscribe if you want more Linx tips, tricks and tutorials.